let's talk about voice types. This can get a little confusing, so I'll break it up a little differently for you guys. As I've said, all screams are pitch-based. So regardless of if you're just practicing on your own, if you're at a show getting ready to go on stage, or you're going into the vocal booth to record a song, you always need to warm up first in order to prepare your body for what it is you're going to be doing. All screams are pitch-based, as I've told you, so it's important to understand how to warm up melodically, but furthermore, know where you stand within melody itself. What is your range? What is your voice type? Now, essentially all of this is made up because everybody's voices are different. Every single person is built very differently from the next. So these are more so guidelines than anything else. And range is specific to your voice, and it's based on really whatever's comfortable for you. And although we are going to be working on expanding eventually and gradually over time, it's important to know where to categorize yourself when it comes to how to choose which way to warm up and how to get yourself ready for what it is you're going to be doing. Now, generally speaking, people, you the listener, have a lower pitched voice, a more middle pitched voice, or a higher pitched voice. Which means, and you can usually infer that from the speaking voice as well, where if you're someone that talks all the way down here, you can infer that you are someone with a lower pitched voice. Versus if you speak more in this middle section and it's slightly raised and you can hear it occupying this amount of space, that would be more of a middle voice. If you spend most of your time up here, then that might mean you have a high-pitched voice. Now, everyone's ranges are different, but this isn't necessarily about just that yet. We're just talking about how to categorize yourself at first when you're choosing which direction to go in. There are 6 common voice types that have existed for a very, very long time that I'll break down for you now. And they are called bass, baritone, tenor, alto, mezzo-soprano, and soprano. And that's just going from low to high in that order. When it comes to how to navigate yourself melodically, we're going to talk about the numbered notes here. I'm going to give you an example. Usually something that's called, that middle point is C4. C4 is this specific note right here. This is the note C, and this is C4 because it's the 4th C up from the bottom. That's it. That's all that is. The bass range is typically E2 to E4, which is this note to this note. Which means you can kind of operate usually within that range. The baritone is slightly above that, taking up A2 to A4. And everything in between. From there we have the tenor voice, slightly higher. We have from C3 to C5. The alto from F3 to F5. The mezzo-soprano a little higher than that, A3 to A5. And then the highest voice type, the soprano, from C4 to C6, which is just these notes. Now, like I said, not everybody fits exactly into this, because people generally just have a lower pitched voice, a more medium pitched voice, or a higher pitched voice, and sometimes there's some crossover. For example, the extreme ends, the absolute low and the absolute high, are not that common. More often than not, those of you out there watching this are going to be somewhere in the middle, at least at first. There aren't that many true basses or true sopranos, at least not now. So know that you're probably somewhere in the middle, but if you're not and you are one of those people that's on one of the extreme ends, it's just less common, but we've accounted for that here. Additionally, you'll notice that all of these different voice types are all 2 octaves rather than 1 like I just played. You have 1 octave, which is just 1 note to the next of the same, but you'll notice we're talking in 2, so we're skipping 1 going to the next. It's wider. Typically, if this is your first time singing as well, your voice isn't going to be that wide. You're more likely to have a range that's closer to 1 octave rather than 2. If you've been singing for a while, or if you speak very melodically and jump around a lot on a regular basis, you might have more than 2 octaves, which means more than one voice type might apply to you, less than one might apply to you. Regardless of the situation, that's okay, because like I said, everybody's voices are different. These warm-ups here are designed for your development within our program. So you can use our graphic and how we've laid this out for you to determine which voice type to go with when it comes to your warm-ups. Figure out if you have a lower pitched voice, a more middle pitched voice, or a higher pitched voice. Understand that if you're unsure, you're more than likely somewhere in the middle because the 2 extreme ends are less common. Go through our warm-up section here on our website and trial and error your way through some of these sections. And if you find that one is too difficult, you might have picked a little too high or a little too low. So refer to our graphic again and go ahead and try and situate yourself into what makes the most sense. And like I said, whatever's the most comfortable, because this is all based on your voice. Being able to increase tone and an ability and range as well are all built into our exercises, but this is just how we're going to get that first step in. So go ahead and check out that section for yourself and apply what we've talked about here to your decision making.